Hello, everyone. So let's let's wait for a few seconds, like 10 or 20 seconds to wait for people to log into our webinar today. And yeah, welcome, and yeah, let's just meet briefly our panelists today. I'm curious. So we've got Dominic, Almog, Vernon with us today, and I'm wondering where are you calling us today from? If you don't mind starting with Almog.
Hi, everyone. Um, I'm from Coro, based in Tel Aviv. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you, Almog. And Dominic, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm based in Victoria, BC, Canada.
Oh, fantastic. Beautiful. And what about you, Vernon?
Yeah, my background is shameless false advertising because I'm in the UK. There are no
Oh,
rainbows present. There's no sunshine. I'm in a city called Leicester. It's one of those
Leicester.
annoying places that is not pronounced anywhere close to how it's spelled.
You're absolutely right, Vernon. So I think we've got enough people together with us. So we're gonna get started. Hello, everyone, and a huge thank you for joining us today for a discussion on is AI killing your technical standards? This is a deep dive online panel discussion created in partnership with Kodo. This discussion is going to last roughly 45 minutes, after which both myself and the panelists will head over to the Lead Dev Slack to answer some of your questions in the panel Q&A channel. We'll drop a link in the chat with the name. We may also have time to answer a couple of questions live, so please do submit those in the Q&A feature on Zoom, and we'll keep an eye. We'll get to them if we can towards the end. I also do check throughout the webinar, so just don't hold back. So we're going to get started with some more formal introductions. My name is Blanca Garcia Gil, and I'll be joined today by Almog, Dominique, and Vernon to share their experiences and insights. I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves, and we're going to start with Almog.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Almog. I'm a director of product at Coro. Before product, I was engineer for 10 years, also engineering manager. So I've been both sides. Coro is an AI code review platform. We plug into your pull request workflow and review your code automatically, looking for quality, security, best practices, and whether the code follows your team standards. This is what we do. And we work with some of the largest engineering organizations out there. And personally, for the last 6 months, my main focus was building our rules standard system. So this is why I'm very excited to be in this panel, because it's a question I hear from customers all the time. How do you keep your standards alive when agents are writing most of the code today? It's one of the most important questions in engineering right now. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Almog. And next we'll move on to Dominique.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dominique. I'm the CTO at Inspiring. We build a full stack connected care platform for senior living. So we help residents that live in senior living communities with hardware, AI models on the edge, software. We have a huge data platform. So very, very complex ecosystem with a tiny team of maybe about 40 people. But our technology is responsible for preventing falls and keeping residents safe. So our technical standards aren't optional. We have to build a very high quality system, because when we make mistakes, people can get hurt. So very top of mind as we've rolled out very significant AI usage at our team.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Dominique. And last but not least, Vernon.
Hey, greetings everyone. So I'm Vernon. I'm a senior engineering manager at a company called Phrase, and we're a localization platform. So we help teams and organizations take all the text that they're dealing with and localize it appropriately for the markets that they operate in. And then outside of that, like every man and their dog, I have a podcast with a friend of mine called Richard. I write a newsletter on Substack, all very boring and predictable. And I'm also a family man, so I've got a wife, 3 kids. They're all awesome. So yeah, you
Oh,
may hear my daughter in the background at some point pottering around the house. So yeah, I'll just warn you about that ahead of time.
amazing. Thank you. Thank you all. So today we're going to be looking at the intersection of software quality and AI. The enormous volume of AI generated code is transforming the challenge of fragmented technical standards as traditional code review is no longer scalable enough to keep up the pace. We will explore how our experts are rethinking culture and processes to shape code reviews and engineering norms, ensuring software quality remains high. We're going to be structuring our discussion today into three overarching topics. The first one being, what are the implications of AI generated code on your org's engineering standards? And we're going to be starting with Vernon. So what specific and measurable changes are necessary for our organization's testing standards and test suite integrity when AI agents begin producing code at a massive scale?
I have no bloody idea. Like this is kind of, this is why I was super duper excited to be on the panel, because we are literally trying to figure this out. And so a slightly more serious answer is, one important idea that I have as we figure this out is, actually this isn't, the answer isn't new, because having all of your testing go through the human called the tester, forget AI, that didn't scale anyway. And now we've added rocket fuel to the process of outputting code. It's like, good luck if you don't have any automated tests. Good luck if you don't have any pipelines, or all that cool stuff that we've been trying to convince organizations in the industry to do for like the past 20 years. That's now table stakes. If you're not doing any of that, good luck. So that's one thing. I'd say another thing is that, if, like my organization, if you have testers in your team and they've been operating in the the typical way, there's quite a significant identity shift that's going to have to happen, at least with that group of people, but also with the wider engineering org, because I think that the folks who are the testing specialists in your organization, I think they're going to have to, instead of enabling, um, instead of delivering information to their teams, they're going to have to, in a kind of team topologies kind of style, we're going to have to switch into enabling teams and give them tools to help them do the testing. And so that's quite a mindset shift. So instead of us providing information, we're going to be providing tools or assistance or coaching or all of this kind of thing to empower the team. Because as awesome as I am, if I'm the only tester in your team, I don't scale. So the only way to do that is to empower everybody else to do the stuff that we do, including the robots, because now we've got robot teammates as well as organic ones. So there's a lot of identity shift stuff to do, and then there's all the table stakes stuff to do. And the final thing I'll say is, um, it will probably take a mixed approach as well, because if you look at the stack of the stuff that we're building, it's not 100% AI enabled products and services. So those things that are still deterministic in nature, we can still use the, it seems silly to call it old. It only got old like 2 months ago. But anyway, the old way of checking those things were right, they still apply. So all the pipeline stuff, all the exploratory testing, all unit tests, that all works. But then for those part of your stack that is more non-deterministic, because it's got, it's Gen AI enabled, then we're going to have to use a different approach, because that stuff won't work. Because every time we do something different, we get a different output. We have to reason about it differently. So that was a lot of words. I'll stop.
Oh, that was great, and I love how you set the tone that we're all just figuring it out.
We don't know what the hell we're doing.
It's okay. It's okay to start this session just acknowledging that
Yeah.
we're figuring it out. And I hear it's, you said identity. It's about identity. It's also about providing tools as well as empowerment, coaching,
Hmm.
and it's also about understanding what different types of testing Gen AI powered features are tested slightly differently.
Yep.
Yeah. Did I capture that?
You did. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to, hear from Amog now. And Please, Almo, tell us what is the enduring value of engineering standards like clean, readable, maintainable code? When like Vernon said, AI agents are increasingly just authoring code, and the consumer of that code might just be another AI agent. Why do we care?
Yeah, this question is something that we think about a lot, both inside Kodo, our developers, and also I see this conversation with our customers all the time. And I think the honest answer has two parts. First of all, yes, standards still matter. I mean, I don't think it goes without saying, maybe even more than before. But second, and this is where it gets interesting, the standards themselves need to change. Sticking to the exact same rule book that we have 5 years ago, it's just, it's not relevant anymore. So I'll start by explaining why I think standards still matter. So the most obvious reason is that humans are still in the loop, especially in the moments that when something breaks in production, and when there's a security incident, when you need a big change in architecture, or when you're reviewing someone else's code review. These are high stakes moments, and that's exactly when readability matters. So you don't want an engineer to debug something at 2 a.m. trying to make sense of any messy code just because an agent wrote it, right? So that's one thing. But the second reason is about control. Standards is how you keep track of what agents are doing. If you let agents write messy, inconsistent code, you lose the ability to check what they did. Clean code is, it's clear names, small functions, consistent pattern. It's not just about looking nice. This is the interface between humans and AI. And when you lower those standards, you're giving up control, and it's very dangerous, and it's even irresponsible when I'm the one that should be owning the ship to ship this product. And third, and this is something that we see very clearly at Kodo, agents actually work better on clean code. AI models give better reviews, better suggestions, and make fewer mistakes when the code base follow the consistent patterns. And it makes sense, right? Garbage in, garbage out. We all know that. If your code base is a mess, the agents working on, they produce messier outputs. It makes the code base even worse, and it makes everything messier. And that's a really, really bad cycle. So standards break that cycle. So yes, standards matter, but some of our standards were built in a world where humans were the main bottleneck, and that world is changing now. Core idea, clarity, maintainability, consistency, they don't change, but the specific rules, some of them we need to rethink. For example, developers have always valued short, clever code, right? That made sense because one can only hold so much in our heads at once. But agents, they don't have these limitations. Code that's more explicit, maybe even what developer would call over-documented, that might be even better for agents because it gives agents more context and give humans clear picture when they step in. And documentation in general, it's another one because we've always documented what the code does. What the function gets this input, returns this output. But agents, they can figure it out. They don't need us to document this. What they struggle with is understanding why. Why was this approach chosen, right? What trade-offs were made? What's the business context? I think we need to shift towards documenting the intent and the context and not just the description of what the code does. Document the why, not the what. So to wrap it up, the question isn't whether the standards should exist. Yeah, they should exist. When AI agents write most of the code, standard becomes the main way that we keep quality and control. But we also need to be honest about which standards will still serve us, right after the whole agents generation, when the world is not human-only world anymore. So the ideas stay, but the specific rules need to evolve.
Thank you, Amok, for speaking so clearly. And I think another thing that stood out is that you say, well, the standards matter, but it's this control, but it's also a communication interface,
Yes,
and it's also enabling agents as well as people. And
exactly.
I almost laughed when you said, "Oh, we have to document the intent." I thought, weren't we meant to be doing that already? When you write like clean commit log, that sort of thing, architecture
It was
decision
very hard to
records.
do it. Now we
Yeah,
have to. Now we have to. There's no other way.
yeah. Wow.
I think you've changed my mind. Like I've been really thinking more about architectural standards, and I'm like, I don't care what the code looks like as much. But I think you've changed my mind that we need to actually start documenting more of the why. What I've been thinking about in terms of standards is more like our architectural standards, because, for example, like we historically maybe have used queues or things that scale for the scale that we have today, but inherently AI is not going to know when we need to start scaling, how many different facilities we're going to go install at tomorrow, and therefore certain things and patterns that we have in our code today may not work well. This is where like engineers thinking about our scale or providing context and the why I could see how that could work is really, really meaningful. So some of what we've done is used and documented, well, we're moving towards this standard. So now as we keep writing new code, documenting in, let's say, our MD files, let's make sure that we're moving to Tailwind CSA. So that's not so much a scaling problem, but that is a different thing that we're also thinking about. And I've found that to be a really powerful way to drive our architectural standards, or actually make sure that we're documenting them, versus in the past, we wouldn't have even bothered necessarily, or I would have worked with staff engineers said, make sure you document this, make sure you tell everybody, okay, go do some code reviews. Now, all of a sudden, we've documented that this is what we're going to do. And we've even created agents where we have a code review agent that knows what our technical standard is for our APIs that's specific to Inspiring. So specifically, how do we work with our own data, and how have we decided how we want our APIs to work internally? And then the code review agent will review and then enforce applicable, making the standard work. And so I found that to be like an interesting way to think about how do you create scalable standards that matter, but from an architectural lens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how it's some of the things, again, the architecture decisions that we were thinking maybe sometimes we don't need to document them. In my experience, they saved me more than once at 2 a.m. in the morning when I was, the fear on call. But now it's like, it's important because of, it's almost like we're putting more explicitly what we had in our minds. There was almost like this knowledge being shared above the team's heads. And now it has to be explicit so the agents can actually draw on it. Wow. I'm going to pause for a moment because there is one question in the Q&A that I think is rightly aligned with this discussion. And I'm just going to bring it in. And the question is for anyone who would like to answer from our panelists. And they say, Dan is asking, do you see AI reviews as a complete and visible replacement to human reviews? Or are tools like Kodo designed to take the initial heavy lifting out of the equation to reduce the level of scrutiny a human may need to employ?
I can answer, but maybe someone else wants to answer.
You want to start, Almond? And maybe, if Dominic and Barney want to chip in afterwards.
Okay. Yeah, because I hear this question all the time. It's code review becomes the new bottleneck, right? I mean, the writing the code was 80% of the time, and then 20% of the time we review the code, and now it's like the exact opposite. Now we have too many pull requests. So as Vernon said, it's not scalable that human will review all the code. I think the most important thing is that to remember that you can't be your own criticizer. So I would not choose the same tool that wrote the code for me to also review the code for me, right? It's you need to be unbiased in order to review someone else's code. So Kodo is here, and Kodo is here basically to help with the review process. But still, we really believe in human in the loop. Really believe that eventually humans should be the owners of the code. But tools like Kodo can reduce a lot of the burden of having long pull requests. That's one thing. And another thing is because we know AI agents have such a large context today, and they can crawl into other areas in the code base, that one person cannot hold all this information. But this is where AI even do a better review than a human being, but still it can always make mistakes. So I believe it should be a joint experience, AI and human, but AI takes a lot of the time and the burden, the review.
Thank you. Thank you, Almo. It's almost like AI is partnering with the humans to
I
ease it. Vernon?
yeah. So it's back to what I so this question is one of the main reasons why I said we don't know what the bloody hell we're doing. Because everything Elmog said is absolutely nailed on correct. There's so much volume of code, so much surface area to cover that individual humans probably can't hold all that in the well, we can't do it now. So the volume of code that we've got now, we definitely can't do it. But at the same time, in I'm so glad Dominic's on this call because it's the perfect context. It's not going to be sufficient, and it sounds funny, but this is real serious. It's not going to be acceptable if our AI generated code hurts somebody in the real world. If we go, I have no idea. We're going to have to go and talk to Anthropic and Claude about that. It's like that's not acceptable. That's literally not acceptable. You can't make the AI agents and all these tools responsible and accountable. So the question becomes, what do our governance policies and procedures look like so that in the event of, those hideous circumstances occurring, how are we keeping ourselves accountable? How do we know that the things we're putting into production are good? And particularly in Dominic's situation, like, because it will hurt somebody.
Yeah. And so we really look at it from a perspective of overall, where is the risk? Where can you go further and push further versus not? So in our main code base, which can be less automated testing because it's connected to some of the hardware that we have in place, et cetera, that's a place where we expect very clear code reviews. Everything gets looked at right now. But what we're starting to experiment with is we have a coding agent that we've coded in such a way that it actually, when it puts up a PR automatically with us not getting involved, it's starting to put confidence levels on those. So high, medium, and low. Today, we look at everything. The goal that I'm working towards is that anything that is high in a low risk area. So we build internal tooling for our own employees that gets used on a regular basis whenever we go do installations. And we're always available to help. We have a process available to that. For things like that, the risk is so much more controlled, and it's a great place to start to get to a point where we can start to accelerate and make code review not be part of the process. And let's be honest, like that's something that in the past, we didn't have great tooling for those teams because we couldn't make the time. But we went from a place where it would have taken 3 months to build a perfect app for our implementation team to now it took us like 8 days to have an app that has 10 different features in it. So all of a sudden we've been able to do that. And that's okay that in those places, if it's a high confidence change, we would ship it automatically. We're not doing it yet, but that's exactly like what I'm designing is if you build, my view is you design a system that you can provide governance in. And then as the models get better, as you increase your confidence in the skills, the sub-agents, I love what you said, Almog, of like, you need to have a tool that's different. We actually have 2 different code review tools that we use, one within the developer workflow, and then one after we've shipped that does it at the PR level. That's what's going to, at one point, there'll be a moment where we're like, yep, this is now just a checkbox most of the time. And so a certain percentage of our PRs in the low risk repos are going to be automated and not require that level of code review.
Thank you. Thank you both Vernon and Dominic for sharing. First, your questions around risk, but then also Dominic, you've already been thinking, how do we make this happen? How do we mitigate this risk? But I think on top of your mention of governance, Bernard, I think what I'm hearing is ownership. Still, the teams own the code because otherwise you can't really manage the risk. Who owns the risk? An agent? Not really. Oh, thank you, everyone. I think we're going to move to the second topic for today, which ties into how to govern engineering norms across distributed teams using AI. And we're going to go back to you, Dominic, because you said you found possibilities leveraging AI to codify best practices for non-technical aspects. How are you using AI to enforce consistent high-quality engineering practices across your teams? You already hinted a bit, but tell us a bit more.
Yeah, I get so excited about this because I used to like coach individual staff engineers, managers on best practices. And actually, I think it ties really well to ownership because I want people to really feel the full ownership of the technical quality, but also the product that we're shipping. And there's a couple of things that I launched just in the last 4 weeks that have right away went extremely high in terms of adoption. The first is a peer review tool because we were doing our feedback and we've still been doing feedback manually. And so helping engineers to actually remember, what did I collaborate on with this other person? And how can I give high quality feedback based on my interactions versus just the thing that I remember? And with skills, you can actually get it to not to prompt back and say, well, you said this, do you really mean this? And I've used this really well for our project updates. So engineers own outcomes. They don't just own a project, they own what they've delivered. And so we expect weekly project updates. And in the past, we had a wiki page and we did a presentation on great communication. Guess what? Engineers didn't communicate very clearly and our project still slipped. And so now when you post a project update, 2 things that I used to constantly be checking, especially for our most important critical projects for our success, were, are they on track? If they were putting yellow, I was like, but do you have a plan? What's your plan? How can I help you? Now the skill prompts you to say, well, what is your plan? And they end up having to decide, oh, I got help for this one thing that I was stuck on, or I ended up doing this. And so the amount of times that I need to then proactively step in or do coaching is like reduced from, many times to now it's just like codified as part of the skill. And so I think it's just like such a powerful way to be able to create best practices and coach people in a scalable way, which has never been possible before.
Yeah, I love that. And it's almost, I think that what I got is like prompting people to think through. Don't just stop at the yellow, status project update yellow, done. Like think why.
Yeah. And I force people to have a TLDR at the top because often people are like, I'm doing this. I'm like, great. Does that mean that we're going to achieve the goal of the project by the time that the project ends? And it even knows when we use scale up, when does this change? Are you actually going to hit like the end of our cycle? And it does the delta to really push them. And so the end of our cycle is near. I'm really excited to see what happens as people start to put green when there's only 4 days left.
Yeah, definitely. And I love how you said that, sometimes communication is lacking and how different prompts, different ways you're leveraging for people to communicate. Just take the path. Thank you. Almog, we're back to you. And we talk about standards and guardrails. So what new standards, guardrails? You mentioned skills, rules, rule files, code repos. What are organizations implementing to effectively govern the output and behavior of AI agents?
Yeah, so as I said, we get a really close look at this because this is exactly what our customers are currently doing. They're building their guardrails these days. Every day there's a new thing that you need to keep up. And as Dominic said, skills is the new kid on the block. It's not new anymore, but this is what everyone's doing these days. And well, it's a mess, but I'll try to organize it a little bit to explain. So the first pattern that we see is like turning our tribal knowledge into rules, basically, because rules exist somewhere, right? In your code base or in your PR history or in your Confluence, or you write rules, you don't even know that you have rules sometimes because, for example, my tech lead wrote me a comment 2 times, the same comments. This is probably a rule that we need to just enforce and not let the tech lead remember it every time. So this is one thing that that exists already, and it's really good to just collect and discover all these different rules and into one system that you can enforce these rules with. So this is one thing. The second thing is, I think skills, as Dominic says, skills is like the next generation of rules. And why is that? Because it's more than just a static list of rules. Skill is a package that bundles rules together with the context about when you should apply them and also how you should enforce them. Think of it this way. You might have a set of rules that only relevant for when you're working on your kernel code or your payment layer, authentication layer. These are different rules. So you want the skills to say, these are the rules, this is where you need to apply them, and here's how to check them. Maybe you can run a script or use a tool or call an external API sometimes. It's not always easy to enforce and validate if the rule is violated or not. And this is exactly what skills give us. This is a huge shift from just having the flat static list of rules. It's the ability to say, when you're in this part of the code base, here is not just rules, but the tools and the processes that you need to follow. So this is another thing that we see very, very often lately. Another thing is connecting the same rules in both ways, in both sides, in the generation part and in the review part. We know the generation tools, right? Generation rules. You have ClaudeMD, AgentsMD, Copilot instructions, all these different tools using different formats of rules. And it basically means it tells the agent, in this code base, here's how you do things. And then you hope that it will follow these rules. Because in generation times, rules alone, there aren't enough, in my opinion, because agents might follow them or might not, and it might read them differently than what you meant. So you also need an enforcement layer at the review time that automated checked against the same standards that you have in the generation part time. Did the agent follow your pattern or add a dependency that you don't allow it to do it? This is where it really matters. The best teams connect both sides. The same rules get enforced during the review and also get fed into the coding agent. And lastly, and I think this is very important, measuring how our rules perform. You don't even know, right? You have a list of rules, but you don't even know if the agent follows them or what happened to them. So having analytics on how many rules were violated or passed or merged to production with the violation, this is extremely important, and it can give you a lot of data that you can work with. For example, if I see that the rule is never been violated, maybe the rule is not good enough and we don't need it. Or if I see a rule that always gets violated, maybe we need to understand something and change something in our way of working. So this creates a feedback loop. It's not only about having control of the data, it's also about helping improving our rule system and have really up-to-date rules all the time and things that we care about, not just the best practices of the world, let's call it.
Yeah, I think, what I'm hearing is almost like, we're winning, we're moving forward because we have more fine grains of applying rules and also different stages. It's most like we have, like you described it, we have like a central repo, and these rules can be enforced in different stages of the software development lifecycle, which before we weren't really maybe able to the same way. And when you're talking about statistics and data and the feedback, I was thinking of Werner, what you said earlier about testing specialists also, providing tools, providing coaching. They can do a lot. You can see them doing a lot and bringing a lot of value. Using a lot of those, like creating the rules, but also then shifting the culture, because it's a culture change as well. Hey, I think we have, I'm going to pull in one more question because it's related what we're just speaking. Andy asked, should we be using AI tools to analyze code, or should we have more deterministic tools and then use the AI to analyze and summarize the outputs? I feel that's a hot take almost. Would like to take it. Dominic.
I think it's the opposite. Like, I think really you want AI to proactively do some of the heavy lifting, and then you want to have guardrails in place to make sure that it actually did what you wanted it to do. Like, the way that I used to think about this more was, I think Almog did such a great job talking about like traditional platform engineering, is I used to have like the guardrails at the end and then make sure, for example, that you were always increasing test coverage. Like, I care deeply about automatic test coverage. But now what we've done instead is that we've got, for example, test-driven design subagents. So when you're working on your PR and it's a new feature, actually, if it's a new bug, it will automatically launch, create a failing test for that bug, and then it'll write the code that fixes it. But that doesn't replace the fact that then at CI time, I want to enforce that we've actually written the right amount of test for coverage, which may actually be more than just that one initial test that made sure that the bug was fixing. So I think about it differently. I'm not sure if I'm really answering the question, but for me, it's about how do you do both?
Interesting. Thank you. Thank you, Dominic. Anyone else would like to chip in? Or if not, we'll move on to the next question. Yeah.
I would say, if I'm understanding the question, I don't think it would work that way around, because I don't think the deterministic tools would find the problems that you would need it to find. And this is on the assumption that we're building AI. So if we're building AI, because of the nature of the technology, if the output, so in a deterministic system, if the question was, are you okay? And the output was yes, oui, like yes in French, 10 or teapot, only the first answer would resolve to yes, you've passed. But then in the non-deterministic situation, the first two would be yes, and you'd want the system to pick that up. So I don't know if I'm understanding the question properly. I don't think it would work that way around. Like, we wouldn't be able to do it that way.
Okay. No, thank you, Fernand. Well, Andy, if there's anything else that maybe we haven't touched on, feel free to ask in the Q&A in Slack. Okay, so we can clarify there and iterate the answers. But thank you so much for proposing that question. In the spirit of time, we're going to move on to the last section. We have one more question in the Q&A. I don't know if we'll get time, but this we'll always take them to Slack to make sure they're answered. So our third topic that we're going to touch on is how to scale code review and quality to keep pace with AI. And we're going to go back to you, Vernon, talking about what is the new role of the human code reviewer when faced with huge volumes of AI generated code, and what responsibilities do you see that a human person must retain versus what can be delegated to Gen AI tools?
So I think, I discovered this cool paper by a lady called Lizanne Bainbridge. I'll find a link and I'll share it. And the funny thing is, it's old. Like, it's from 83. And what she's saying in the paper is, the more that you automate something, everything that is left is all the difficult stuff. And that's the stuff that you need the humans to take care of. But because they see it less often, they get less good at spotting it. It's like a conundrum. It's like you need them to be better at looking for the weird stuff. But humans are not good at just sitting there and looking out for weird stuff and just concentrating for a long amounts of time. That's not what we're good at. That's not our thing. So that's weird. And then I also discovered this concept called, I suspect everyone else has probably heard about this, but just in case you're like me and just found out about this recently, there's this thing by a chap called Ethan Mollick called the Jagged Frontier, and it basically describes this weird feature of AI where it's really amazing at amazing things. So we can point it at our repos and say, explain this to me, please, and it will be accurate. And then we can ask it, I need to take my car to the car wash that's 10 minutes away. Should I walk or drive? And it will fail and say you should walk. How can you be good at that and be good at the other thing? Like what? Like that doesn't make any sense. So in this reviewing situation, we're asking, people like us to be vigilant for things that are rare, which decreases our ability to see those weird things, and also is actually draining for humans to do that kind of work. So yet again, I have no answer. I don't even know why I'm on this panel at this point. I've got no answers for anything. I've just got problems. So these are the challenges that I am trying to get my head around. I'm not sure exactly what the answers are, but I know that they are the challenges, that they're pretty significant. So I am now going to hand over to the smarter people on the panel and let them answer the question.
I think it's a great answer, but it's almost like you're lifting us up to a more kind of almost like philosophical phase, but also it's complex. This is not
Yeah,
easy stuff. Like we've known that if we automate too much, what's left is really hard. We also know that what you don't use, you lose. So that's
yeah,
also the other saying with AI. If you're not using your skills to like write codes and the things, you're gonna be losing them. So keep an eye because there's big changes, but it's not all overnight.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Thank you, Bernard. And I will we'll move on to Dominic for our last question, and then we'll wrap up. So Dominic, if we are focusing on scaling quality, you noted that AI agents can also increase reliability. How does using AI to shift quality left by embedding system resilience, operating standards upfront, fundamentally change the scope and burden of the human code review process?
Yeah, Vernon said it so well that we're terrible at doing boring things. And I used to have to teach engineers, when you go deploy, go stare at the dashboard, go see if an exception has happened. Or if you're on call, are there bugs that have come in? Are you actually looking at it? And then you spend a bunch of time just doing that first investigation, pulling up the right panel, making sure that you're looking through your tools for the right logs, pulling it all together. But with AI, we can instead, like, I'm so excited about automating more workflows such that the engineer is in the loop. They have to respond versus they have to proactively initiate, do a bunch of manual work to pull together all of the data and the information they need to debug. And therefore, like, they can actually fix issues much, much, much more quickly. And so the thing that we're working on right now, we already have a bot that can automatically be assigned to any bug that gets opened or to debugging a Sentry issue. With Sentry, they make it really easy for us to be able to then actually auto triage specific types of bugs to our own agents that we've created that have all the context on our code, all of the sub agents that I just talked about, to be able to fix them. And it also has a confidence level. So we all of a sudden we have our own internal confidence level and then Sentry's confidence levels. So you can totally instrument these workflows for your engineers where they're in the loop reviewing and therefore much more likely to do it really, really, really quickly versus in the past you would have maybe spent 2-3 hours or at least spent a significant amount of time just collating the data that you need.
That's absolutely brilliant, Dominic. I thought at some point you were gonna take, the bane of what my existence was with being on call. But if I don't have to like search for logs and capture logs at like, early hours, I think that's moving forward. And AI is great at pulling data. And I think that's,
Exactly.
we're reiterating also that AI is a partner, is helping us do our jobs better, focusing on, what we can do, which is judgment and analysis. And it's just not about, going into machines, and figuring out what I need to look for. Yeah,
Yeah, I get
amazing.
really excited about the power that it has to pull all that information together if we make it so much faster, such that when the engineer is participating in the process, they're doing it for the parts that matter the most.
Absolutely. I think, I honestly think that also alleviates a lot of the stress of being on call. Yeah. Vernon, go
One
ahead.
thing, one thing I'm wondering about is, that phenomenon in PRs where you just see looks good to me, like, phew. Look, right? Like, so I wonder what is going to be the AI, because what Dominic describes is dream world, but also I feel like as awesome as it could be, there's a risk that, again, because we're humans and we have to review things all the time, it'll be like, yeah, looks fine, looks fine, looks fine, until it's not fine. And now you're, you know, back in the bad old days of now something is for real on fire, and because you didn't pay enough
And
attention, it's going to be
we didn't
interesting to
talk.
see how that goes over the weeks and months and years ahead, I think.
This is why the best engineering teams are already having, like, if you already had invested in closing the loop in the systems that keep you up, that are make it easy
Yeah.
to just revert if you push something or not, is
Yeah.
like, I think this is where the best engineering teams are shining using AI, because they've already got the resiliency they need to be able to leverage and manage those issues.
100%. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to thank, to all our panelists for sharing your insights today and being just completely honest. And now it's time to wrap up. So I'd like to just go around the room and please share, what is your top tip for keeping technical standards alive in this AI era? And we're gonna go in reverse from where we started, and we're gonna start with you, Vernon.
I think it is to try and be intentional about what good looks like before you start. I'm not saying overthink and spend a million years figuring it out. Just have some kind of objective hypothesis about what good looks like before you start using this stuff, and then you'll be able to iterate more easily.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vernon. And next, Dominique.
I mean, be much more practical. Right away, go pick one thing that you care deeply about that's challenging for your standards, and either go implement a skill, a sub-agent that's responsible for it. So one thing that we've done, for example, is security. We have a sub-agent for security that verifies every single PR to ensure that it's high quality. It wasn't that hard to implement. And the more it gets used, the more it gets updated by the engineers who are also using it, so that it catches more security issues upfront before they ever ship.
Fantastic. Thank you. And wrapping up will be Almog.
I say, don't just write your standards down. You need to make them enforceable. It's really, really important. If it existed only in a document or in someone else's head, they will never be a reality, only a wish. So make them enforceable.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone, for all your experience and your insights during the panel. We're going to be heading quickly to the Lead Dev Slack in the panel Q&A channel, and we'll copy. There was one question left. We'll copy it there, and we'll keep the discussion there. So thank you for joining, and we hope to see you next time. Bye.